Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Due to the pandemic, the experience of voting in the upcoming election will be a very different one. Rather than lining up at our local polling places with our neighbors, most of us will be voting by mail and submitting our ballots weeks before the election. New Jersey is one of 5 states to move to all vote by mail for this election, and the change has raised questions and concerns about the process. Here to go over these changes and to answer your questions is Janet Fisher Hughes of the Camden County chapter of the League of Women Voters. Janet has lived in Pennsauken for more than 30 years and is an active member of our community, serving on the boards of the Friends of the Pennsauken Public Library and the Pennsauken Historical Society. Since 2018, she has served on the board of the Camden County chapter of the League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan organization of men and women dedicated to voter education and civic engagement. Upon joining the board, she took over as director of the chapter's Running and Winning program, a program that gives young women in high school the opportunity to explore public service as a career and to discover leadership qualities in themselves. The first Running and Winning event under Janet's leadership took place in May of 2019 at Pennsauken High School with participation from women politicians in our community and across Camden County. It was very well received by students, staff, and volunteers. In addition to running and winning, Janet leads the League of Women Voters' unique 411 Vote 411 effort, providing voters across Camden County with election information that they need. As part of this evening's presentation, she will show you some of the resources that are available on this website. And I'd like to turn it over to Janet to talk about vote by mail and the upcoming election. And I think you should be able to share your screen, Janet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see. Share screen. Let's see. Oh, just a second. Share screen. Very good. Everyone see that?
I do not see it.
Oh. Uh-oh. Okay.
Oh, great.
Okay. There we go. There we go. Little technical glitch. Excuse me. All right. So as Allison said, I come from the League of Women Voters of Camden County. It's a nonpartisan organization, and we welcome women and men and students as young as 16 to become League members. League members are involved in a variety of activities that build civic engagement throughout our region, such as conducting voter education presentations like this one, moderating candidate forums, and registering voters. So after tonight's presentation, I'll be happy to speak with you more about the League of Women Voters and the activities we are involved in. So this is a bit of a synopsis of what I'll be covering this evening regarding how to safely vote in this election. And I'll be going over the many details as we go through. I should point out that the deadline to register to vote is coming up. That's Tuesday, October 13th. And this year, for the first time, online registration is offered. However, I'm told it does require an electronic signature. So if that's something that you can do, that's great. But otherwise, the old-fashioned paper form is probably the way to go. And I'm told that the Pennsauken Public Library has voter registration forms for you, and they are in both English and Spanish. So please avail yourselves of them, and they are postage paid, so you can mail them right in. So here are some ways that you can become an involved voter. So first and foremost, of course, is plan to vote. Have a plan for that, and please talk about this with your friends and relatives. Kind of normalize voting, and make sure that they have the resources that they need in order to vote. In terms of getting involved with the actual voting process, I do believe that the Camden County Board of Elections still has openings for poll workers. And that would be actually on election day. There will still be some polling locations open. But also they are, with the number of mail ballots that are coming in, they are going to need quite a bit of staffing in order to process those. In fact, the processing, the first time this year, is going to start 7 days before the election in order to handle that volume. And that would be October 24th. So I think there'll be 8-hour shifts helping them, go through and process and scan the actual ballots in advance of the election. And of course, on election day. Vote411.org. I'll be going over that a little bit at the end here, just to demonstrate what's on there and how you can use it to help you make an informed decision. So as Allison said, this is the first year in which this is an entirely vote by mail election. And the primary was as well. And it was Camden County had to vote by mail in the primary election. This year, I'm informed that Camden County sent almost 500,000 mail ballots to registered voters in Camden County. And they started sending those out in, I believe, like toward the end of September. And the last one was sent out October 5th. So if you have not received your mail ballot by the end of this week, that being by Friday, October 9th, you should call the Board of Elections and find out the status of that. And I'll have information at the end of this presentation with contact information for the Board of Elections. Now, the good news for us who live in Camden County is that the Board of Election is quite experienced with mail ballots. I believe about 20% of voters, registered voters, vote by mail regularly. However, they have ramped up in terms of their staffing, as I mentioned before, and also they've added some additional and newer machinery so that they can process all these mail ballots as they come in. So if you've received your envelope, you'll see something that does look like this. And inside the envelope, you have the letter from the county clerk. You have your ballot, of course, and then you have 2 envelopes. So what do you do? Well, first of all, you want to complete your ballot. And in order to ensure that it is scanned in properly, you want to use either black or blue ink and fill in the ovals completely. Some of you remember, filling out SAT tests. It's kind of similar to that, but in this case, it's pen. And make sure that you vote both sides of the ballot. The candidates are on one side, and the 3 ballot initiatives, which Sean will be discussing later on, are on the other side of it. So make sure that you complete both sides of it. And then this is really, really important. You want to sign the yellow envelope. You want to sign the yellow envelope, not your spouse, not anybody else. You sign it, because that signature is in fact checked when it gets into the Board of Elections. So you do want to have a valid signature. Now, they are fully aware of the fact that signatures do change over time. So, don't be freaked out by that, my signature certainly doesn't look like it did 20 years ago, but they have several sources, including, your original voter registration, DMV. They have several different sources to check that your signature. They're not out to try to reject ballots, but they will be checking them. So they also, they could reject your ballot because of a bad signature or no signature at all. And then as far as the, putting it on the envelope, where it says do not detach, don't detach. So then you want to put your ballot in the yellow envelope, peel off the paper strip, and fold with a sticky adhesive. And once that's done, you want to put that in the green envelope with the address showing so that it can get sent to the Board of Elections. Now, the one thing that there was a webinar last night with 2 commissioners from the Board of Elections, so I found out quite a bit about this whole process. First off, do not, if you want your ballot counted, you must make sure that your ballot is put in that yellow envelope with your signature, that otherwise it will be rejected. And because they don't know who it came from, they have no way of contacting the voter to let them know that the ballot came in and was rejected. So that's really, really important to have that yellow envelope. Now, the outside of the envelope, you're probably looking at that and wondering this whole thing of the bearer. What does that mean? And we will go through that in a minute. So the other big question is, how do you return your ballot? And the good news is there's quite a number of ways that you can return your ballot. First and foremost, since it's a mail-in ballot, you can mail your ballot through regular mail. You can put it outside on your mailbox. You can go to the post office and post it. We would just request to you that you mail it as soon as you possibly can, knowing that there are some mail delays. However, it must be postmarked by Election Day, the 3rd of November. There are several in-person ways that you can get your ballot in. Now, there are 13 drop boxes throughout Camden County, and these are secure 24-hour surveillance, and there's some strict collection requirements on them. You can go to the Board of Elections office, which is down in Blackwood. It's a big complex down there. Or on Election Day, you can go to your polling place. Alice and I were just talking about that. We're not really quite sure yet which the polling places are. We are supposed to be advised of that in the next few weeks, because we're having fewer polling places across New Jersey than we did previously. Now, the whole bearer rule can be a little confusing, but the main focus of it is if you're thinking that you can take your entire large family's ballots with you and take it to the post office or to a ballot box, think again. You are permitted to carry 3 ballots in addition to your own ballot per election. And please be warned that the state of New Jersey does keep track of all the bearers, or our Camden County Board of Election. So anytime a voter gives their ballot to someone else to transport, this person is called the bearer. And the bearer must fill out the bearer portion of the green envelope right there. And that must be signed in the presence of the voter before the ballot is transported. Again, 3 ballots plus your own. And if there are more than that, the 4th and additional ballots will be rejected. Of course, if you're a candidate in any of these elections, you cannot be a bearer. Now, this is another important one. If you happen to go to the County Board of Elections office to deliver your mail-in ballot on behalf of other people, and you do not sign the bearer portion, the Board of Elections is not required to tell you that the ballot will be rejected. However, the voter will receive a letter verifying that it was rejected. I don't think that that can be cured, and I'll go into the whole curing process later. So you do not have to fill out the bearer portion on your own ballot if you are in fact dropping it off yourself. And another important thing to note, we'll get to this later about voting at a polling place. Although you may go to a polling place and drop off your own mail-in ballot, you may not do so for anyone else. You cannot be the bearer of a ballot that is presented at a polling location on election day. And this is just some additional, this kind of is a synopsis of what we talked about previously. So I had mentioned before about curing the ballot. Ballots are tentatively rejected for a number of reasons, primarily because of this whole signature issue. Either the signature does not match or the signature is missing. And it can be corrected. And you can thank the League of Women Voters of New Jersey and the ACLU for allowing this to happen for the citizens of New Jersey, because they brought a lawsuit against the state of New Jersey to allow for rejected ballots to be cured in this fashion. So once your ballot is put in as potentially rejected, you would receive notification of this via the mail. And this notice will include a form that you fill out, and you can either return it in person, fax, email, or mail. Now, the deadline for them to receive it from you is November 18th, which is 48 hours within the day in which the election is certified, which this year will be November 20th. As mentioned before, the 13 secure ballot drop boxes are throughout Camden County, and they are monitored 24 hours. They're in well-lit locations with video surveillance. And they will be open, or they will be available until the polls close 8 p.m. on November 3rd, 2020. Now, these are, ballots are removed from the drop boxes every single day, and they are emptied by 2 representatives from the Board of Elections of Camden County, one being a Democrat and one being a Republican. So here are the 13 locations where the ballot boxes are located, and we are very lucky that we have one so nearby. And I took a couple photos of the one by our municipal building. So you can see it's in the back there. There's Route 130 and Bethel Lutheran over there. And here it is, and it's right across from the library. So that should be very convenient for us voters in Pennsauken. You also have the opportunity to track your ballot through trackmyballot.newjersey.gov. And the reason that is able to be done is that on the yellow envelope where you have signed your ballot, there is the ability, there's a little scanning thing where once it is coming in, see, this is on mine, once it comes in to the Board of Elections, it is scanned, and that allows your ballot to be tracked. So you will receive a received status, but that will not be changed to accepted until the election results are certified. Now, you do have the opportunity to vote at the polls, as I mentioned before. That would be on Election Day, November 3rd. There will be a limited number of polling places available. Allison, I believe you said there's 14 in Camden County? Oops.
Yes, that's what I was told when I called the County Board of Elections today. But the person that I spoke with did not have the list because online it lists 24 locations, but she said
Right.
it would be limited to just 14.
Yes. So we do not know which locations they are currently. However, we do know that it'll be a somewhat more scaled back setup than we have had in previous elections. Now,
we know that the library is a polling place.
it is?
Tanya said that in the chat that the library is a polling place.
Oh, it will be. Okay. Okay. She knows more than we do. So there are 3 ways that you'll be able to vote at a polling location. First off, as I mentioned before, you can bring in your mail ballot and just drop it into the box that they will have there. Secondly, you can vote using a provisional ballot, which in fact is a paper ballot that's identical pretty much to your mail ballot. And the third way is there will be one machine at each of the locations, which you can use to vote. However, you will need to certify, you'll need to sign an affidavit that states that you are disabled and not able to vote, any other way, that you do require the polling machine. Now, when I mention provisional, what I mean by that is that those votes are counted only after the mail-in ballots are counted. So, for example, you may decide, or you may think to yourself, "Oh, did I mail in my mail-in ballot? Oh, I should go. I should just make sure and vote." Well, if you do that, you will go to the polling location and you will vote a provisional ballot. And once that's entered in, if you have already mailed in your ballot, that will be counted, and your provisional ballot will not. However, if you do that and you actually did not send in your mail-in ballot, your provisional ballot will ultimately be counted. So again, as I mentioned before, if you do want to vote on the machine, you do have to prove that that you are disabled and just unable to vote any other way. Oops, excuse me. So again, here are the important dates that you should remember. Most people, you should have your mail-in ballots by the end of this week. This coming Tuesday, October 13th, is the deadline to register to vote. And of course, November 3rd is Election Day. I'd like to add to that the certification of election results for Camden County, I think the state of New Jersey, is November 20th. It's going to be an interesting election this year with so many mail-in ballots. It is going to take a little while longer for ballots to be counted. We can only speak for Camden County as far as what they're doing to ramp up and try to get these ballots scanned in and processed quickly, we're really not sure what other counties in New Jersey are doing. And here's the information that I mentioned previously, ways that you can contact the Camden County Clerk. For example, if, or the Camden County Board of Elections. So perhaps if you're missing your ballot, or your ballot got destroyed, you poured coffee all over it or something like that, you can contact them in order to get your ballot replaced. And a little bit about how you can get involved with the League of Women Voters. So with that, I'm going to go and go on the Vote 411 website, which again is, I've been covering the Camden County part of that. Just want to demonstrate a few of the things that are on the website. And okay. So one of the things that's unique is that you can put in your address and you can get your ballot information. So in this case, I'm putting the address for the library and municipal building, and you can find out what's on your ballot. It looks like we have a registration deadline here. I'm not really sure what happens on Tuesday, December 8th, but and you explore now, the voter guide, and you can also choose English or Spanish if you wish. And here are all the races that are on your ballot. So it goes from the president, and in this case, since we've covered the school district, you covered the township committee and all of the Camden County freeholders. So we also have the ballot questions in here. And the league does provide pros and cons for each of them. You know, things that you might want to keep in mind as you're deciding how to vote. But I will let Sean cover that. Let's go to Camden County Freeholder, and we see that we have all 4 candidates have responded to us, and you can, I'll just go with Jennifer Moore here, and we have posed, several questions to her, and she's answered them. So this gives you an idea of what each candidate is about who has responded. We also our Pennsauken School District, we have 3 of 4 candidates have responded, and I am told that Mr. Vieira will be responding shortly. So that just kind of gives you a sense of, what's on your ballot. And there's other information from other parts of New Jersey. So Allison, I think that is my presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Janet. It looks like there is one question already in the chat from Sarah. Okay. What are the pros and cons of voting at a polling place versus a mail-in ballot, assuming you are not in need of ADA accommodations?
Well, the pros would be if you really like going to, your polling place and it makes you feel like you've really voted. I mean, there are some people who are like that. That's certainly a pro. The con, I don't know if there's any real cons. I mean, you don't really need to do it, so, but if you really feel more secure about taking your, either your mail ballot or your provisional ballot and putting it in and seeing that it goes right in the box, you know, fine. But these, you know, certainly the mail is secure, and these ballot boxes that are all over the county are quite secure. And I don't think you should have any concern about them. Did I answer your question?
I think that, yes.
Okay.
Eric says yes. Does anyone else have any questions? I actually, I have a question. You had mentioned that the county is still looking for poll workers. Is that?
I believe they are. I believe they are. And I believe if you look, let's see, you can contact them. Where did I put that? Sorry. You can contact them because I know that they'll have at least 7 shifts leading up to the election starting on October 24th. They will probably be looking for poll workers as well. They will probably also be having shifts of people after the election, because as the ballots continue to trickle in after election day, so they will still be processing them. I'm not sure about the, you know, exact specifics of that, but last I heard they're still looking for people.
So if people are interested in doing that, Janet, should they contact just the main Board of Elections phone number there?
Yes.
Okay. Would you be able to just copy that and paste it into the chat so that people don't necessarily have to like be scrambling for a scrap of paper?
Oh, okay.
That'd be great.
Okay. I will do what I can do here.
Yeah, thank you.
That is very helpful.
I'm not the most technologically.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I do. Like I've talked a lot about this event with friends and family from all over, not just from New Jersey. And I know that the voting by mail aspect of things is obviously specific to this state, but the Vote 411 website, and it was showing us earlier, is that how comprehensive is that for other states, if you have a sense of that?
Well, it is comprehensive for the national elections for all across the country. But it depends on the participation of the chapters, league chapters around the country, and you know, the different counties within the country. I know that, for example, our national league will cover the national elections, like the presidential. New Jersey State League covers the congressional and the Senate races from the state of New Jersey. Camden County, myself, is covering Camden County. And I know a number of counties across New Jersey are covering their individual races as well. I really cannot speak to what you know, different states are doing, but at least I can be pretty sure, you know, that you have the presidential race, and probably each of the states is at least doing their Senate and congressional races.
Thank you. That's really helpful.
Thank
I'm
you.
glad you're doing that. I haven't seen anything that comprehensive previously. So it's such a great resource for people.
Yes, and I did happen to look on the California one. I don't know if they're doing Vote 411, but I had a friend out in California who was bemoaning they have ballot initiatives like nobody's business. And I said to him, why don't you go on vote411.org in California and look it up? And I looked it up for him, and it was all there. So
That's great. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you. It looks like we do have another question. And I'm sorry, I don't know, because I sent out the link, I sent out my link
Oh,
earlier
right.
today. So, the person has my name also, but you have your hand raised. So if you'd like to ask the question, you can unmute.
Hi, everyone. This is Diane Johnson. How are you?
Hi, Diane.
Hey, sorry, I have my Legion meeting going on too. But my question is, Janet, I saw when you showed the 411
Yeah.
and the pictures of the candidates for school board were there, except for one person. How do those pictures get there?
The candidates put them there themselves.
Really?
What we do is we get a list of candidates and their email addresses from the county clerk. Then the Vote 411 platform allows us to send invitations to the candidates to participate. And in fact, we send one invitation, a couple of follow-ups, and then some of us also do individual follow-ups. I was able to follow up individually with a couple of these candidates, and so that's how it's done. So they go on their link and they'll answer our questions, kind of like if it were like a survey, and then they can upload their photos.
I mean, this because next year will be my third term running, and I don't recall ever doing that.
You better respond to us.
I will. That's good to know because I see Orlando's picture's not there, so that's good to know.
He hasn't responded yet, but I'm told that he will.
Okay, I will.
And if you see him, you tell him to respond.
I will. That's good to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. So let me oh, darn it. And also, I haven't got my ballot yet either. So they told me on the 12th I can go into Blackwood and do it, but not before.
What? Oh, pick it up or
actually go and do it. I guess they'll print me another one. I can complete it and then turn it in.
Oh, okay.
So and that's the first time that's ever happened to me. Yeah, I didn't get it.
Well, the last ones were sent out on the 5th, which was only 3 days ago.
Really? They told me mine went out on the 28th.
Oh, okay. All right. I meant the last ones that would have gone out. So
right. So
it might show up.
Thank you. Well, thank you for putting this on, and I'm glad about that website, the 411. Was it Vote 411? I'll have to go out to it. Thank you.
Vote411.org.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Janet. That was very informative and helpful. And I appreciate you taking the time to go over all of that with everyone. Tonight, we also have the opportunity to talk about the constitutional questions on the ballot. And I would like to thank Sean M. Brown for joining us and to go over those questions and talk about the issues that we will be voting on. Sean Matthew Brown is a community organizer and policy analyst specializing in community development, local government and elections, and public and higher education reform. He is the son of a public school teacher and father of 2 boys. Sean graduated from Rutgers in 2010 with a BA in Urban Studies and in 2015 with a Master's of Public Administration with a community development concentration. He is a former school board member serving from 2010 to 2013, including as the chairman of the policy committee. Young Urban Leaders was founded while Sean was an undergraduate student at Rutgers University. As its volunteer director, the organization supports leadership development for young adults. Sean has been featured in the Courier Post's top 35 leaders under 35 years of age. And in 2010, Next American City included him as one of the best and brightest. Sean served as an AmeriCorps Vista in Camden and New Orleans. In 2015, Sean completed a fellowship for New Leaders Council, a progressive leadership program with chapters across the United States. He is the founder of Du Bois Douglas Strategies, LLC, a company that does strategic planning, grant writing, and project management for small local nonprofit organizations. He also writes urban folk songs in his spare time. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Sean, and I will turn it over to you for your presentation. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Wow, I thought I knew a lot already, but this was super duper informative. All of us are super citizens for participating in this. In every political training I've ever been in, they say that those of us that do this, we're not normal, and that's a good thing because we love our communities, we love our country, and we want to make sure that we are doing our best to participate in it. So something that I don't want anyone to forget about is that when you vote, you're actually able to vote and really make law by amending New Jersey's constitution. New Jersey is every state except for Delaware allows the voters to vote on constitutional amendments that have been approved by the state legislature. So what happens is the legislature says, we don't think we can get this passed in a certain way or the governor supported. We're gonna let the voters decide, then they do that. And in this case, in the general election, there are 3 things that the voters are being asked to vote on. So I'm going to do a screen share and just share a presentation on the topic of what that is. And we can go from there. As I talk to you, my children are about to walk in the house. So you might hear some background noise, but I'm gonna get to it. So, okay, you got, Allison, you can see my screen, right? Okay, great. All right, so there are three questions. And the first question is about the legalization of recreational marijuana. So several years ago, the state of New Jersey approved the use of marijuana for medical use. And now the question is to the voters, can marijuana be used for recreational use? So in that, voters will be able to vote yes or no. Yes is if you think it should be legalized. No, if you do not think it should be legalized. The people that vote, this issue isn't just about marijuana in itself. Many people look at this as a social justice issue, and I'm including people that are going to vote for it and for people that are going to vote against it. For the people that are going to, for the most people that are, some of the people that are for this are actually people who think they're going to get rich off of it, because if this question passes and marijuana is legalized, we'll be creating a new industry in the state of New Jersey. It will be selling a product, and people will be able to sell a product legally that will also be taxed. So one of the reasons why Governor Murphy and the state legislature overall is in support of this isn't just because they want to see people, getting stoked on the weekends. It's also because they need the tax revenue from being able to sell this product. And the other reason is because for decades and decades and decades, people have been arrested, convicted, jailed, imprisoned for selling marijuana, including in the state of New Jersey, where it was illegal here. But if you went a few hundred miles in any direction, you could be on a state where it in fact was legal. The people who are against this, most of the people that are against this question aren't against the question because they don't like marijuana. It has nothing to do with that. It's because they don't think that marijuana should be legalized. They think that instead it should be decriminalized. So legalizing something and decriminalizing something can sound very similar, but in fact it is not. It's not similar at all, because to legalize something means you're creating a market for it, and decriminalizing means you're just completely eliminating it from the books. You're almost acting like it doesn't exist. Right now, for those that remember to actually check the boxes, we're at 68% of voters are going to vote yes to this. What we can anticipate is that this will, you vote however you want. You vote however makes you comfortable. What we can anticipate, though, is if this passes, the same commission that regulates medical marijuana right now will have extended powers to also regulate the sale of recreational marijuana. So there's a commission. These are people who are appointed by the governor and the legislature that vote on the rules by how which medical marijuana can be administered. That commission will have expanded powers to regulate how marijuana can be sold. If you live in Pennsauken, if you live in Camden, Cherry Hill, wherever, once this passes, your municipality will have the power to decide whether it will permit marijuana to be sold in its town or not. And if it does want or allow marijuana to be sold in its town, it can add a tax to that marijuana for the municipality itself, which is really, I would say, is unique. I would say that that's unique in that it's not usual for municipalities in the state of New Jersey to have their own taxing power unless they have a population over 100,000 people, which is very few towns, including Newark and Jersey City. There's a video that I'm not going to play just for the sake of time, but I would recommend if you want to learn more. There are that you can go online and to NJ Spotlight News, formerly just NJTV. You go to NJ Spotlight News and you can watch it. I will put, as soon as I finish talking, I'll put the link in the comments that you can see, and I'll do the same thing on the Facebook Live feed in case you're watching there. The next constitutional question, public question 2, and you can see the text there on the screen, is specifically about whether veterans who never actually fought in combat can get some of the same benefits that veterans who have fought in combat can get. And as you can read, because the language is fairly simple, that includes a $250 tax deduction. And it also includes allowing people who are permanently disabled during peacetime military to have a full property tax exemption. So this is a constitutional question that does not affect really a large amount of people. However, because the original rule was in the Constitution, the only way it can change is for the Constitution to be amended to allow veterans who did not fight in combat to be able to do that. I'm just going to check. I see, let's see. I think somebody just put something in the comment. Let me just check it out real quick. Okay. I can't get now. I'm just gonna move myself real quick. So as I go over question 3. So public question 3 asks, question 3 is about the census. So in the state of New Jersey, you may not have ever thought about this before or realized this, but in the state of New Jersey, we redraw the lines, not just for the United States Congress, but also for the state representatives. So as you can see here on the left, these are the lines for the state legislative districts. New Jersey is divided into 40 districts that are supposed to have somewhat equal population, which is why you see 3 is so large, because this is a rural area. 2 is large, a rural area. 1 is large as a rural area. Over here, 5, this is where we are. If you're in Pennsauken, it used to be 7, but now you're 5. And then you can see up here in North Jersey where Jersey City is, where Newark is, the oranges like East Orange, West Orange, up in Bergen County, much more populated, so the districts are smaller because each district should have approximately the same amount of people. Constitutional question number 2 says, when will we count this based off of when the results get to the President of the United States? So according to the law, the census is going to end October 31st. President Trump attempted to have it end a month early because he didn't think that the Census Bureau would be able to get him the numbers by December 31st. A court overruled him, and the census is now going to be finished officially on October 31st. By law, passed by Congress, the numbers, the population count for the entire country, including New Jersey and including Camden County, have to be on the President of the United States desk by December 31st. A few months later, there had to be recommendations made by every single state for how the lines will be drawn. So one of the things that usually happens every 10 years is that some states increase in population and they get more members of Congress, and some states decrease in population and get less members of Congress. In New Jersey, there will always be 40 districts. If you think that the government can wait in case the census is delayed, the census numbers are delayed, can wait, you should vote yes. If you think, you know what, you take those numbers how they are when they come, before you draw the lines, you should vote no. So those are the 3 questions. Again, number 1 is on the legalization of recreational marijuana. Number 2 is on whether non-combat veterans are able to get the same types of tax deductions and tax exemptions as combat veterans. And then question 3 is about reapportionment, which is the technical name for when does the deadline change. Number 3 is very, very, very inside baseball. It's very wonky. I've read all about it. I actually don't even really have a strong opinion on it. And there we have it. So I'm just reading the questions here. If question 1 passes, does that foreclose on the option of decriminalizing marijuana, or a separate action be pursued by the legislature to address helping people who have been incarcerated for possession or dealing marijuana? That's a great question. This is a huge issue. I have a show. This is somewhat of a plug. I'll be bringing these experts on to talk about this either on this Sunday or next Sunday. The short answer is we don't know for sure. The longer answer is about half the Democratic Party and a third of the Republican Party are okay with marijuana being used for recreational use, but they deeply, deeply care about the justice issue, and they want to make sure that the justice issue and the legalization issue are attached and are bonded to each other. So Senator Rice up in Newark and other people, they will not let anything pass unless there's a social justice component that goes along with it. And another question, siblings often think Alex Online for question 3, will the change be permanent or just for the 2020 census? It's just for this, it's a weird one. It's just for this, it is just for this year, unless there's another pandemic in 10 years, which is pretty unlikely. But who knows, because it's been a weird year. So there you have it. I'm happy to take any questions on this, or there's obviously a longer ballot for president, Senate, Congress, county commissioners, formerly known as freeholders. That was, you guys saw that earlier. We live in the 1st congressional district. On a district level, the Democrats tend to win. A Republican has not won Congress. Wow, in a lot. I mean, I'm 38. There hasn't been a Republican that's represented the 1st congressional district in a time period. But Trump supporters drive out more people than Biden supporters. So really, we don't know necessarily what will happen in this election. We can definitely make assumptions based off of polling. But this is my request, my ask that everybody register to vote. Everybody confirm that they're registered. Everyone has a vote plan. You got fantastic tips earlier on how to do that. You should be able to look at that entire ballot from president all the way down over to local elections and constitutional questions, and have a fundamental basic understanding of these things. There is, I don't want to say plenty of information online, but there is information online that you can look at as well. So if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, issues, or whatever, feel free to ask me now if that's okay. And if not, you can email me, inbox me, and I'll try to help you out.
If we have time, I do have a quick question about number 3. Hi, this is Sarah. I guess I feel like I understood what's happening with this question. I guess I just didn't understand the implications. Like, let's say the vote went through to say, no, we should not allow this provision. It just seems like there isn't enough time. So what would happen?
So, okay, so I forgot to mention a part of why this matters. The Constitution says for the state, for in New Jersey, in the state legislature, for the Senate, not for the Assembly, but for the Senate, They have a shorter year. They have a shorter term. They have a shorter term every third time they would run. So it's usually a 4-year term, but in years of after the census, or right before the census, they shorten it because they want to see how the districts are going to be redrawn. If the voters vote no on this, okay, let me back up a little bit. When this was put on the ballot, we thought that things would be so terrible right now that it was very likely that the census results would get to the president much later than they did. Because President Trump tried to have the census ended September 30th, and the court didn't hear the case until a few days before, the US Census Bureau across the country was acting like September 30th was the deadline. Once it was extended for this next 31 days of time, if you've already turned in your information to the census, which most people have by now, that information is already being tabulated by algorithms that the Census Bureau has created. So the whole purpose of this in question 3 on the Constitution, in many ways, is at this point a moot point. In worst case scenario, the people who have already been elected, their term would be for a little bit longer. And the lines that we currently have would stay the lines for an additional year. The legislative district lines that I showed earlier would stay. So this is almost an issue that you almost couldn't explain to somebody, because I've already feel like I've over talked it, because it's so dense and full of things that just most people probably don't even notice, even political wonks, because it's a very, very narrow and specific thing. So I guess
what I'm hearing is it doesn't sound like it's a very high stakes. It sounds like it would be status quo for another year.
Yes.
And then once all the information is in, then we would go with whatever the new district lines are once we have all the census information in.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Sarah Geiger, are you the same Sarah Geiger I went to college with?
Maybe. I think so, because I was Sarah Brookover then.
Oh, I don't know.
But we did go to Rutgers at the same time. We could talk offline.
Okay.
But thank you. That's very helpful. I'm like ready to send my ballot. That was my last question. So thanks for taking the time to explain it.
I would also like to add, the good news is that the census participation in the census is quite high this year in New Jersey. I heard it's well over 90%. So kind of unbelievably high. It was like, I think 99%. We're kind of wondering about that, but definitely higher than it was in the last census, which is good.
This is Sophie. I have another question for Sean. You had made reference to like a presentation or a show or something that you're holding on Sunday with experts related to question number 1, and I just wanted to get some more details about that.
Sure. So on Sunday mornings, I host a show called Urban Disruptors Weekly Wrap Up. You can find it on Facebook if you just type in Urban Disruptors Weekly Wrap Up, or YouTube if you go to WCMD Media. I can put the link here and in the on the Facebook Live as well.
Yeah.
But this is my personal opinion on whether it's cool for a young man on the weekend to smoke marijuana has nothing to do almost with this question. It has way more to do with how do we correct the wrongs of the last 80 years. I'll tell you now what I said before. Slavery ended. You have farmers in the South who were tobacco farmers. Tobacco is a complex plant to cultivate. It's labor intensive. So when slavery ended, they were struggling how to figure out a way to continue to make a profit off of selling tobacco. They looked at the Native Americans taught many people how to grow marijuana. Marijuana is pretty simple to grow on your own. You don't have to be a true farmer to do it. It's pretty simple to grow. And it being simple to grow, it was in competition with tobacco. So there was a whole, I would say, really ridiculous political campaign that went out in the early 20th century to criminalize marijuana. I know it's hard to believe in these days because our country is nothing like it was 100 years ago. But back then they were saying things like a black man like me, if I smoke marijuana, I'm gonna start crushing on white women and making babies with them, which isn't true. I don't think. And that's the kind of marketing that they did to justify it becoming illegal. It had nothing to do with the chemical compounds. It had nothing to do with any of that. There are obviously prescriptions that are stronger, whatever. It was an economic decision that was made to benefit Southern farmers. That's the root of why marijuana. Matter of fact, even the name, they always called it cannabis, and then they flipped and changed it to marijuana. It's to sound ethnic in Spanish, which is obviously the name that stuck even today. Oh yeah. I don't know if you typed that first or if I said it first, but right, you're right on it. So this is a social justice issue, and look, yes, creates a new industry and brings in tax revenue. No, kills it. And the thing about no is, although it kills it maybe for righteous reasons, you don't know what the state legislature is going to do afterwards because they've already struggled to get a majority vote on the desk of the governor. So it's a tough one. And we don't want New York or Pennsylvania or Delaware to legalize recreational marijuana first, because if they do, then people will just travel to those states and buy it, and it won't be a thing. Allison, give me the nod if I'm talking too much, but I'll tell you one real quick.
I was just nodding because what you said about if it's legal in a state nearby, people will go, and
Yeah.
so I agree with that.
And we benefited from that as New Jersey. When I was, before I was born, we benefited from New Jersey for many years. When I was young, especially, I would ask people if they ever been to Camden from other places, and older people would always say, "Oh, from Pennsylvania." "Oh, I'm embarrassed to say this, but when I was young, I was 18. I would come to Camden. I would come to New Jersey to buy alcohol, because in New Jersey you could buy alcohol at 18, but in Pennsylvania you had to be 20. You had to be 21. So drugs create industries. Drugs make people travel. People want to look at the world. People want to do something. They want to relax, whatever it is. The only other thing I would say is, remember that this constitutional question allows for recreational use you have to be 21 or over, just like alcohol. And one of the things, there are two things they're struggling with legalization. One is police officers say, we don't have a way to test this quickly like we do with alcohol, but we don't want people driving around high. And then the second point is, in certain industries, including childcare, healthcare, they will still be able to regulate, not only if you consume marijuana within the short period of time, but even in a long period of time, you would still be banned from using that drug, not too different than how you are now. Now, we're not 100% sure of that because the law hasn't been written, but if you look at the trends across the country, California, Colorado, other places that have done it, that's the direction it is going in.
Thank you. That is really helpful. I missed the time of day that your show airs.
So it's at 10 a.m. live.
Okay, great. And then is it accessible afterwards? Like, yeah,
yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you.
Allison, am I okay on time to answer that question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, that's a great point. So for one, let me read the question in case you can't see it. So Janet, oh my goodness, do I need reading glasses at this point in my life? I'm trying to read this. Zoom needs to let me increase the font or something. I'm like, what's this say now? What's this say? Can you speak to the fact that marijuana is not legal nationally and what that will mean? Yes, I can. So there are a few things on this. One, no, it's not legal nationally, which I'm a bit perplexed by, because this polls really well, and I don't fully understand why. I don't know who's blocking it or whatever, but Congress be weird and stuff. Nonetheless, so Governor Murphy wants to create a state bank because buying and selling marijuana is a pure cash deal. Because it's not legal on a national level, there's no, some of these companies have issues even getting like POS systems in place, point of sale systems in place, and things like that. Another issue nationally is that like you can't, like I can't go to Cove Road. I don't know where a dispensary would be, so I'm just making this up. But I can't go to Cove Road, get an ounce of marijuana, and then drive across the Ben Franklin Bridge or Betsy Ross Bridge to Pennsylvania, because once I'm over there and get caught with a certain amount, it is a crime, and it's not only a state crime, but if one wanted to, it would be a federal crime because I've carried it from one state to another. So there are all sorts of indiscrepancies and oddness that goes on when something is legal on a state level and not legal on a national level with marijuana. But to both listen to what I'm about to say, I can't believe I'm saying this, to both President Obama and President Trump's credit, neither of their administrations have allowed their Department of Justice to aggressively go after states who have legalized it, as President Bush's AG did, at least for a short period of time when they were raiding dispensaries in California and things like that. Neither of these administrations have taken that. So they basically, Department of Justice has turned a blind eye to the legal sale of recreational or medicinal marijuana in the states.
Does anyone else have any questions? Well, thank you so much, Janet and Sean. Sean, that was really informative, and I feel much more prepared to fill out my ballot now. And I appreciate you both taking time out of your busy schedules to speak with all of us and share your knowledge with the community on Facebook, and this will also be available on our YouTube channel.